Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to take a deep dive into something that's absolutely essential.
Uh-huh.
And that is how to introduce yourself in English.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we all know introductions are important, right?
Absolutely.
They're that first impression, they kind of set the stage for any interaction you're about to have.
Right.
But it's funny because for a lot of people, myself included,
Yeah.
I mean, I still sometimes get like a little bit nervous.
Oh, sure.
Or just unsure of
Yeah.
okay, what am I actually supposed to say?
Mm.
Especially when I'm talking to people who maybe English isn't their first language.
Yeah.
You know, you want
Yeah.
to make sure that you're coming across clearly and confidently
Absolutely.
and that you're actually, engaging them in a conversation.
Definitely. And you know what's interesting is that the research that we've been looking at for this episode actually highlights that struggle that so many people feel about introductions. Right? You know, it's not just you. It's a very common experience. But the great thing is this research also gives us some really specific advice and strategies that we can use to overcome that awkwardness and really nail those introductions.
Okay, so we're not just talking about theory here.
Exactly.
We're going to get into some actual practical things that you can do.
Absolutely actionable steps.
Starting right now.
Yes.
To improve your English introductions. So one of the first things that stood out to me in this research is the idea that introductions, they need to be short, confident, and engaging.
Yes, that's key.
Right. So it's not about launching into this long story about your entire life.
Right.
Or over-explaining things. It's really about hitting those key points.
Exactly. It's about being concise.
Yeah.
Getting your message across quickly and clearly.
Yeah.
And leaving them wanting to know more.
And doing it in a way that actually, makes them want to continue the conversation with you.
Exactly. You want to spark their interest.
Yes.
You want to make them think, oh, this person sounds interesting. I want to talk to them more.
And the research also made this really interesting point about delivery.
Yes.
It's not just about what you say.
Right.
It's about how you say it.
Absolutely. Your tone of voice, your body language.
Yeah.
All of that plays a huge role in how your introduction is received.
So things like, making sure that you're speaking clearly, enunciating your words well.
Yes.
Smiling, making eye contact.
Right. Having a friendly, open demeanor. All of those things contribute to creating a positive first impression.
Okay, so let's get into some specific examples because I think that's always really helpful.
Sure, absolutely.
So let's start with casual introductions.
Okay.
The kind of introductions you might use, when you're meeting friends of friends or you're at a party or something like that.
Right, just a relaxed social setting.
Yeah. So the research actually gave a great example here.
Okay, let's hear it.
They said you could say something like, hey, I'm Alex. I'm a content creator, and I love helping people improve their English. How about you?
Oh, I love that example.
Right.
It's so simple, but it's so effective.
It feels very natural.
Yes, it's very conversational.
And I like that it ends with a question.
Me too. That open-ended question is key.
Right, because it immediately invites the other person to respond.
Exactly. It keeps the conversation flowing.
Instead of it just being like, okay, well, I just said my thing, now it's awkward silence.
Yeah, exactly. It avoids that dead end.
Okay, so that's a good example for a casual introduction.
Yes.
Now, what about in a more formal setting?
Okay, good question.
Like, let's say you're at a job interview.
Right, or a business meeting.
Or the networking event where, you want to come across as professional.
Yes, definitely.
The research actually gave a really good example for this type of introduction as well.
Okay, I'm curious, what did they suggest?
So they said something along the lines of, hello, my name is Alex. I have 5 years of experience in content creation and digital marketing. I'm passionate about helping brands connect with their audience through engaging storytelling.
I see. So it's still concise.
Yes.
But it includes more specific information about your professional background.
Right. It's not like I'm Alex and I like to,
exactly.
go hiking.
It's tailored to the context.
Yeah.
And it highlights your relevant skills and experience.
And I like that they included the word passionate in there.
Yes, me too. It adds a personal touch.
Yeah.
Without being too informal.
So it shows that you're not just like, a robot who's done this job for 5 years.
Right. It shows that you actually care about what you do.
Exactly. And I think that's really important in those formal settings because you want to show that you're not just there to, clock in and clock out.
Absolutely. You want to demonstrate your enthusiasm and engagement.
Right. Now, another important point that the research made about formal introductions is that even though you are being more professional, you still want to aim for that open-endedness.
That's interesting.
You might not end with a direct question.
Right.
Like, how about you?
Right.
But you're still trying to leave that opening for the other person to, ask you a question or
to engage further with you.
Yeah, to continue the conversation.
Exactly.
So, for example, in the example I just gave about, I have 5 years of experience in content creation and digital marketing, and I'm passionate about storytelling. That kind of naturally leads to the interviewer or the person you're talking to being able to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell me more about your experience with storytelling.
Right. Or what kind of stories have you worked on?
Right. So it's still creating that opportunity for interaction.
Absolutely. It's about providing those hooks for further conversation. And it's interesting to contrast that with a very closed introduction.
Oh, yeah.
If you just said, hi, I'm Alex, I work in marketing.
It's like end of story.
Right. It doesn't really give the other person much to go on. And it could potentially just kill the conversation before it even starts.
Yeah, it's like a dead end.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the words we use in our introductions. But now let's talk about something that's equally important.
Okay. What's that?
That is body language.
Oh, yes. Body language is huge.
Because, you can say all the right things.
Right.
But if your body language is screaming like, I'm nervous or I'm uncomfortable or I don't want to be here.
It's going to undermine everything you say.
Yeah, it's going to totally contradict your words. So what are some things that we can do to make sure that our body language is, projecting confidence?
Well, the research actually gives some really specific tips on this.
Okay, great.
So, for example, they talk about maintaining good posture.
Okay, so standing up straight.
Yes. Shoulders back, head held high. That conveys a sense of confidence and presence.
Yeah, like you're actually present in the conversation.
Exactly. And then another thing they talk about is making eye contact.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It shows that you're engaged, that you're interested in the other person, and that you're confident in yourself.
Yeah, because if you're like looking at the floor or over their shoulder.
Right. It can come across as if you're nervous or insecure.
Exactly.
And then the research also mentions using natural hand gestures.
Okay.
Not like over the top.
Right. Not like you're conducting an orchestra.
Exactly. But just using your hands in a way that feels natural and expressive. It can help to emphasize your points and make you seem more engaging.
And I think it's interesting because for people whose first language isn't English, they might not naturally use as many hand gestures.
That's true. Different cultures have different norms around hand gestures.
Yeah. But in American culture and a lot of English-speaking cultures, hand gestures are a big part.
They are part of communication.
Yeah, of communication. So if you're not using them, it can actually make you seem a little bit
stiff or unnatural.
Yeah, or like you're holding back.
Yes, exactly. So it's something to be mindful of.
Yeah. And I think it comes with practice.
Absolutely.
The more you practice using, your hands and your body language in a way that feels, authentic and natural, the more confident you'll come across.
Exactly. It becomes more second nature over time.
All right. So now let's move on to social introductions.
Okay.
So these are introductions that you might use when you're meeting people in social settings like at a party or a club or, just out and about.
Right. More informal situations where you're looking to connect with people.
Yeah. And in these situations, I think the goal is really to be friendly, approachable, and a little bit more personal.
Yes. You want to make people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And like they can talk to you.
So the research gave a great example for this type of introduction.
Okay. I'd love to hear it.
So they suggested saying something like, hey, I'm Jess. I love traveling and trying out new coffee spots. What about you?
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah. It's very simple.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's also very effective.
It is.
Because, again, it ends with that open-ended question.
That's key in social situations.
Right.
You want to invite the other person to share something about themselves.
Yeah. And it also gives them like a starting point for conversation.
Exactly. It provides common ground.
Right. Like if they also love traveling, then you can immediately start talking about, your favorite travel destinations.
Right. Or if they're also a coffee enthusiast, you can swap recommendations.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a really easy way to kind of break the ice.
Yes, spark a connection.
Yeah, and start building that rapport.
Absolutely.
Now building on that idea of, being friendly and approachable.
Yeah.
The research also talked about the importance of showing your personality.
Oh, yes. I love that.
In social introductions. Because, you want to be memorable.
Absolutely. You want to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, you want people to, remember you and want to continue talking to you. So they gave a really good example for this.
Okay, what was it?
They said you could say something like, hey, I'm Jess. I'm a coffee addict and can probably recommend the best cafe in town.
Oh, I love that it's so fun and engaging. It tells us something unique about you.
And it's something that people can, like, latch onto and be like, oh, tell me more about this.
Exactly. It makes you memorable.
Yeah.
It gives people something to remember you by.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Let's do a quick recap.
Yes, let's summarize those key takeaways.
Of the most important things.
Yeah.
To remember when you're introducing yourself in English.
Sounds good.
So number 1, keep it short and natural.
Yes. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Just be yourself and keep it concise.
Number 2, tailor your introduction to the setting.
Exactly what works in a casual setting might not work in a formal one.
Right.
So always consider your audience and the context.
Number 3, speak clearly and confidently.
Yes. Even a simple introduction can be powerful if it's delivered with conviction. So project your voice, enunciate clearly, and believe in what you're saying.
Number 4, use body language to your advantage.
Absolutely. Stand tall, make eye contact, and use natural hand gestures to reinforce your words.
And finally, number 5, end with something that encourages further interaction.
Yes. Whether it's a direct question or an open-ended statement, give the other person a way to respond and keep the conversation going. Those are some really great tips. And I think the beauty of them is that they can be applied across so many different situations.
Exactly. So as you're listening to this, I want you to really think about the different ways that you introduce yourself in English.
Yes.
Think about when you're online. Think about when you're at work. Think about when you're in social situations.
Yeah.
And consider which of these tips you can start implementing today.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
See what feels most natural and authentic to you. Because there's no one right way to introduce yourself. The important thing is to be confident and to make a positive impression.
Because at the end of the day, a confident introduction can really open doors for you.
They can.
It can help you to build relationships, to get your message across, to create opportunities. So don't underestimate the power of a great introduction.
Well said.
It's worth taking the time to really master this skill.
Absolutely. It's an investment in yourself and your future interactions.
So that's it for today's deep dive. I hope you found it helpful. And I hope you'll join us again next time.
Until then, keep practicing those introductions.
And keep diving deep.